Malhotra, as the BBC barely recovers from the outrage over its clear-cut propaganda documentary designed to malign India and Prime Minister Modi, the BBC has landed in trouble, well, once again. This time for giving an ISIS terrorist, a Jihadi bride, their platform and sympathizing with her. Shamima Begum was, she fled the United Kingdom as a teenager and took the decision to join the ISIS back in 2015 with her friends. She got married to an ISIS terrorist in Syria. The sympathetic depiction of the Jihadi bride, who has been remorseless over her joining the ISIS terror group, has left viewers fuming in the United Kingdom. This comes after a report by the UK government stating that Islamist terrorism, the greatest and deadliest threat facing the United Kingdom. The BBC has taken a tone-deaf approach to the issue of terrorism. Now, viewers across the nation are threatening to withdraw their subscription to the BBC. Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat, joins me on the show. Rajalakshmi Joshi, political analyst, also with us on the program. Rashmi Sawant, human rights defender, joins us on the program over here. Rajalakshmi, BBC, once considered to be a credible organization that only dealt in truth, is now bordering on dealing with topics and criteria which are absolutely ludicrous.
Good afternoon, Vineet. And yes, this is a very serious matter, and we have been seeing a lot of very grave incidents happening in the UK, especially over the last so many weeks. So this, I think, is something that BBC seems to have completely lost the plot, and they're just losing more and more credibility every day. And going by the kind of documentaries that they are producing, I would say that there is something very seriously lacking in the way that they are approaching the BBC, the supposedly very authentic, or something that most of our left-wing liberals, they think that this is something that is the most credible way of journalism or something. So what I see is that a lot of these European countries, they have been going for this thing of diversity, and they're talking about secularism, etc., by which they have gone into a lot of very liberal migration laws, etc. So what I'm completely for diversity and inclusivity and all of those things, but then there has to be some line between what exactly are you allowing people to promote in the name of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and even about the religious views. If you look at some of the YouTube videos that keep floating around of people, educated people from the UK, who talk, Muslims I'm talking about, who talk about extremely regressive things about how women should behave, etc., you can understand the kind of radicalization that's going on. And it is sad to see that something, somebody like the BBC is actually giving a platform, and they're promoting these kind of views. They're actually giving a platform to somebody who talks about how they call themselves as a victim after joining the IS, and she has absolutely no remorse about all the killings that happened in different places due to terrorist incidents. And then she says that, okay, it's all over and done with, so you should forget about it. But she talks about herself as if she was the victim, and she had absolutely, she is not responsible for any of that. In fact, she actually says that that was as a result of whatever killings were happening in Syria and Turkey. So she is kind of justifying all those terror incidents. And BBC is actually giving a platform to these kind of statements. And then when you look at how BBC also came up with this documentary on the Gojra riots, I mean, when you put all of it together, it's shocking how that kind of a narrative where all over the world they seem to be going anti-India, they seem to be going anti-Hinduism, anti-Hindutva. There seems to be some kind of a very radical kind of a movement in the European countries, and especially in some of these organizations like the BBC. So we need to look very seriously into who is funding these organizations and how they have the audacity to go into all these kind of documentaries, in spite of the fact that the British Prime Minister, the UK Prime Minister, Mr. Rishi Sunak, he stood up strongly against the BBC documentary on Modi ji. And in spite of that, they come out with this 10 series podcast, and then they come out with this horrible documentary on a jihadi bride. I mean, that is absolutely, they have lost complete credibility, Vineet.
Concluding thoughts from Rajalakshmi Joshi. What should be done about the BBC? In fact, by putting out such inane documentaries, they've already lost credibility. But that day is not far when the BBC could be staring down at bankruptcy as well, because the people in the United Kingdom will decide to not pay for the subscription that they are used to.
Vineet, we can't really do much about what some channel in the UK does, but then from our end, as Indians, as Indian media, what channels like yours can do is that we bring out a positive, information or some countering information that actually sets right the narrative. So, like in the case of that hit job that they did on PM Modi. In those kind of cases, that is the kind of a responsible journalism that Indian media can do. As far as BBC or what we can do is that, we can put a strong word towards the British government, and at the same time, if they start losing the subscriptions, then obviously they will get the message right. And I think we need to actually strongly condemn all these kind of documentaries, because then it also affects the viewership in India also, and because they had a lot of credibility. So even today, a lot of people, they definitely think that their media is a lot more credible than our media for whatever reason. So that, I think, we need to be able to counter it with positivity. That is the only way to counter negativity, Vineet.
All right, that's a good point. Well, this is something which I'm very positive will be taken up in the near future as well, because BBC, as we all know, has become a repeat offender when it comes to basically challenging the universal norms that everyone aspires to today. Perhaps they have a lot of catching up to do. Would like to thank all our guests for being a part of this conversation.